Thank you. Wow. Served by a chef. First of all, Andrei, congratulations. That's a beautiful film.
Thank
really.
you.
Yeah. And Vikas, again, welcome back. I said I think you were being interviewed when I did the introduction before the film. We have known you now for quite some time. I do have to say one thing before we get to a proper interview and conversation. Next time you come here, because you've been a lot, you got to make us some food.
Okay.
Okay?
We were actually planning the reception, which I could have cooked, but I couldn't move the yesterday date. I was in Paris for some perfume testing.
Oh,
And I tried moving that. If I could be here just a day before, I could have done the reception.
Okay, good. So we'll think of that when we're having whatever we're having afterwards that will not be prepared by Vikas Khanna. It's great to see you. Before we get into other questions, because she's, I know from our previous conversations, obviously such a big part of your life and such a big part of the film. How's your mom doing?
She's okay.
Okay, doing all right? How often do you see her?
I just went back to India, and I was in 10-city tour, and just doing some research, which you would know after 5 years, what I was trying to do. But I went to see her first. From Dubai, I flew right to surprise her, and she was not at home. And then she wouldn't pick up the phone.
But I assume you found her ultimately.
I found her.
Okay, right. So just a couple of questions, as I said. One that occurred to me, I've seen it twice now. New York is also kind of a character in your film, in a way. And I know we talked, I believe there was a gentleman here, the last program was a couple of years ago, who had been at the shelter where you were.
Yeah.
And I thought, in a way, it's a character in a bad way, in the sense that you had a really tough time with that awful guy in the kitchen and then at the shelter and everything else when you first came. But you say towards the end that the city has been an inspiration for you. And I wonder if you can say, first of all, overall, how has your relationship with the city been? And do you think it is, has it changed? Do you think it's still a welcoming place for somebody coming from your country, whatever the circumstances are?
It's also interesting because Andrei is an immigrant from Russia, and I come from India. It's a city, this is the only city where you can meet this kind of structures. You can create new forms of shapes and everything. And I think that's always going to be the character of New York City, regardless of what's happening in America. This is a different city where 800 million people are each presidents. So we run our own presidencies and our own campaigns.
I think it's 8 million, by the way. It may seem like 800 million, but it may
Just 800 million?
Yeah.
Okay, mathematics issues. But it's 8 million presidents and first ladies and whatever. But I think it's very interesting because New York is amazing because of the formation of art. And by the way, I never knew it was Simon and Garfunkel till I actually went for a weekend course in Cornell, and this guy's playing the same music. I said, how the hell did you get this cassette? He's saying, whoa, you live under the rock? This is Simon and Garfunkel. I said, the cassette didn't have any name on it, so I did not know. I picked it up from garbage. Somebody must have listened to it and said, oh, we don't understand what they're saying, but I thought they were like angels.
Yeah. The other thing I want to ask you about, and this is kind of a big question, and maybe it's a bit silly, but I'm just curious to know, you say so many things in the film about inspiration and no idea what tomorrow will bring and this kind of thing. You've had so much success. I mean, you rise to the pinnacle of a profession, right? I mean, that's kind of indisputable. But then you move on and you do, it's not mentioned in the film, but I mentioned before, this extraordinary book of photography that must have been, that could have been a life's work right there. It was an amazing thing. And now a film. So first of all, why not just rest on what you are doing and be happy with being the greatest chef from your country and one of the best in the world? And related question, what's the next big thing that we'll be talking about in 2-3 years here or elsewhere?
So I was cooking for His Holiness, and everybody can say he's very close to my heart. I was cooking for his 80th birthday, and he keeps getting updates from the team who travels from India. So he said that you need to come down this mountain to climb a new one. I thought that was so amazing. I did not know what he meant, I'm sure. He did not know too what he was saying, but there's still a communication gap. But I really liked it that, we have energy till we are approximately 55, 60. I've seen people after that become,
Right.
I think till 60 you feel that 60. I have some of the artists I'm working with right now, and they're all in their late 60s, and they are like so. Even now they're driven. Okay, so most of the editors we're working on for the movie, they're all like, and they're like, city gives you the energy. It drains you out too, but city gives you the energy to move on. I'm fantastic in moving on.
But so have you what's in the back of your mind or the front of your mind, or honestly or are you still wedded to the kitchen?
So we have an amazing project coming up in Dubai. That's going to be my flagship restaurant. It's opening September 2nd. It's a big work, working with, in a different country like that. But also, you will also hear about this, that in a few days we would announce for the New York Indian Film Festival, we'll be premiering a New York premiere for the movie called Last Color. I just feel that it's an amazing subject which I picked up, and trust me, Andrei was the first person to hear the story, even before it was published as a book. So I think, you're right, I think finding more meaningful stories and trying to tell them is more important after some time in your age and space. This story was very meaningful because even if you saw the shots which Andrei shot with the food, everything is about color. But in India, there's a group of people, widows, from their lives, color gets removed as a form of, isolation, that they can only wear white, they're total live in ashrams. That really pinched me very hard, and I did write a few articles, and eventually you will see, maybe at Asia Society too, we'll premiere the movie. It's about when a Supreme Court order actually assures them color back, and they would not be discriminating from playing the Festival of Colors. And it's a heartwarming pictures which I saw, which are women in color, and they have tears coming out. But Andrei ended at, I need to create more. I need to deny this, and I think it's amazing because a lot of places where I come from back home, they do not have much reference of what I do here, which is endearing, which is amazing, because my grandmother did not know who President Obama was. She kept hearing pajama on the phone. And I'm cooking for him in 1 hour, and I couldn't convey the message that it's such a big deal. And she's saying, but did you lose your pajama? What actually happened?
Keeps you grounded, right? Okay.
It's amazing. It's such a shift from what I do, and here I'm sitting. It's amazing. That world doesn't have much reference of what is significant here, and this world does not have much understanding of what is significant there. If it was in the poverty, we did touch about the subject of the riots in my city because they had affected me even now. Now in America, you're lucky we can get counseling. Back home they'll slap you. And it's very hard I had very difficult time talking about it, that, a child who was 12, 13 years old has seen hundreds and hundreds of dead bodies being dragged in trucks. And it had just killed me somewhere. And I think you're sum total of all the experiences, and I cannot deny what that had affected, And, I don't know if you told them, but, right on this stage, my first documentary was released. We did the world premiere on December 2nd in 2011 at Sikh International Film Festival, where I made a whole documentary about the communal kitchens of the Sikhs. If I had not been closely associated to it, a lot of times you think that a normal life or the stable life or the laurels are okay and we can sit down. I just think that after some time you feel that I need to destroy the mandala, like you must have seen The House of Cards. That's the first reference most of the Americans have. Wow. You need to destroy the mandala and create something new.
Yeah, well said. Andrei, can you explain to the audience how you first came to know this man? and how then it came to pass that you were making a brilliant film about him.
So Vikas came to our photo studio because he needed some pictures for his books. I later discovered that he's very prolific, and he's now on his 38th book or something like that, right? 38th book. So I had no idea who it was. I started taking pictures, and gradually over time, because Vikas liked the photos, so we started working again.
And how long ago was this?
This was 2.5 years ago, 3 years
Lara
ago.
was not even 1.
Lara was not even 1, so that means three something years old. Lara is my daughter. She's here in the audience.
I celebrated her first birthday. That's how I know.
Yep. I had no idea who Vikas was, and he started telling me bits and parts of his story, and I really loved it, and I loved just listening to what he was saying, because there was a lot of wisdom in it. And I looked him up. I saw that he's huge. He posted a picture of us doing the photo shoot, and immediately, it's like, I don't know, 60,000 people liked it or something like that. Like, oh my God, who is this man? So we started talking at the beginning about doing maybe a short film or something that we could create maybe with an interview and some footage in India. And then it started to grow and grow and grow. And we decided that it's essential actually to go to India to do some of the reenactment. We have this young boy that's playing Little Vikas, yeah. So and for me it was very interesting to play with also to play with the difference between a conventional narrative film and a documentary, and these borders are kind of blurred here. And I've always been fascinated with India. So I jumped right into it, and
you jumped very well.
There we are.
Thank you.
I was telling them that a lot of people in Bollywood, they've asked if they want to do a movie on me. So it's very funny. That's before I told Andrei, you have my 100% commitment on this. So we go and see the screenplay. I flew in from New York, and we are in Mumbai, sitting in this huge office of this big production house, and they drafted my storyboard of life. It was all about the love story. And they had shortlisted some actors, and they wanted to check if I'm okay if they play my character. The entire thing was about love story. And I'm like, I need to come back to you. I need some breathing space. I come back to New York. I told Andrei, I'm with you. The love story, it'll be hard for me. So I told them, I said, so when can we start? I said, the moment I die, you can start this movie. I was like, oh God, this is going to be a hard call, because everything was about that girl who used to sit in the front. And
that was a good little story. I mean, yeah. I know. I mean,
nobody paid attention to me. But she used to sit in the front, and the whole entire thing was about that. It was about the day. I think that movie ended on the call from the Michelin guide. And at that time, I was with Janoon Restaurant. And the entire thing was I'm standing on that's the last scene which they narrated to me. I'm standing on the window of the restaurant, and I'm looking outside, like maybe a miracle like Casablanca will happen, and she walks in. I'm like, I was 7 when I met her. Like, how would I even recognize her? She must, listen, no, that is how we imagine. And you guys, in the end, we'll do a sequence like Jai Ho, where you guys are dancing in the restaurant. I could tell Andrei, that's the end they're expecting. Can we do something? She's saying, don't worry, the story will be, the resilience will be the love story.
Oh, very nice. I have one last question, and then to the audience, which is, I think I know, but you have this, and I'm glad you included it. It's kind of the one place where you get a little literal in the film, where we start seeing Queen Elizabeth and Barack Obama and the Pope, and there are others, right? I can't remember now, but it's this weird sort of Forrest Gump, Vikas Khanna situation where you really, and this was through the book primarily. I mean, I know you cooked for the president, but can you explain how it was that you wound up in all these crazy halls of power And was that mostly with the book project? Or?
So they were celebrating Indian immigrants in England, and they had an invite for me in which I would have a private audience with the king and the queen. So, you've seen most of the images at the Buckingham Palace, even Marilyn Monroe, everybody stands in the line, and there's a very big call, you can't step forward, that there's almost like there's a carpet, and, they don't tell you so openly and says, you cannot extend your hand unless the queen extends her hand, and, there's a protocol about this and everything. So I stand in the line with India's richest people, and they invited you to the palace for this event. And suddenly the royal household comes and says, oh, you can't stand in the line. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm like, I'll go out. He's like, no. The queen and the king will have a private audience with you. So I said, does she speak English? And I literally asked that question, does she speak English? She's saying, yeah, but I wanted to repeat, but you're going to say that not mine. But that was amazing. So it was about a big book which I've done. It's Utsav. Yeah. I brought it to your office, a shorter version. It's 15 kgs book, and it is right now the world's most expensive cookbook of $45,000 US.
It's this big, right? I mean, it's how much?
$45,000 US. And
one of the few books that is not available at our bookstore. I think we are trying to work very hard to make a smaller version, which is less expensive. How many people have bought the book?
No one has bought the book, only one person. I don't know if we have authors in the audience.
It's a beautiful book.
When I submitted the book, it was 200,000 images of India.
Yeah.
It took me 12 years to write it. Yeah. When the guy told me outside the library, you'll always be 10 times less than me, I said, I'll be 11 times less than you. But I'm going to make sure that I'm better than you eventually. I think you need these crazy projects because you don't want to be boxed. I have a saying that you want to be boxed just once in your life, and it's all gone. But before that, shouldn't be boxed. And that book came, and you know how fortunate he is. I actually got a copy of the book and took it to his office. And we only have 13 copies of the book. So we have a president's office when he was at the White House, President Barack Obama. We have Queen Elizabeth, we have Dalai Lama, we have Pope, and we have 12 dignitaries.
And me.
And that was a digital copy which I bought. And I told you, the real copy has liquid gold. And the copy which was presented to the Queen, it took us 3 years to make it. And we didn't cut a single tree for that book. So we used rice paper and we used rice paper, and it became so heavy. But the Queen said that she's going to put it in a summer home on the main table because she wants to show the diversity of India through this book. So that's what I understood in her accent.
Okay, questions from the audience. We're a little blinded here, as always. There are two right here in the center. If we can, why don't we have the young lady in front and then behind you. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I was very inspired by the film, and there's a section where you talk about failure and how it's liberating, and I would love to jump on that bandwagon. But how do you deal with the consequences because you failed? Like, there are real-life consequences to failing, and how do you balance that with jumping on the bandwagon of like, oh, it's freedom now? That's my question.
I think I suffer from acute ADD, and it's sometimes I just have such a... But I think Andrei wanted to focus on not the glory of it. He wanted to focus on the basic human instinct of how we sometimes failing of a relationship or breaking up of a business or, signing up a wrong contract so many times. But I felt that if we do not move on, we do not distract ourselves to something totally new, it really helps me. It's really helped me. I just feel that sometimes even when you're doing regular jobs, it's so important to be distracted. It is, I know it sounds horrible when we say all our life we've heard stay focused, and I'm saying be distracted. Being distracted has really helped me because whenever I'm facing a huge failure in one part, I'm like, get distracted. I can't manage the sinking ship. So I think choose something which is different. It really helps.
Yep. Thank you. If you can wait for the microphone. Thank you.
I can probably project without it. It's not that I have a question. I just have to say something. That I do a lot of screenings of documentaries. That's really one of my passions, because you walk in, you think you know what you're going to see, and you walk out with new knowledge. And that film, Andrei, I met you here 2 years ago, and you told me you were making this film, and I've been waiting. That film to me was like poetry. You were like a poet flowing. Just everything about that hit me so emotionally. The editing, your story, the beauty, the colors. I've been going to India for 10 years, and this film really hit me. I just thought it was incredibly special. And you can write a book on poetry. You are a poet.
I wrote.
Well, I need that book.
Didn't sell a single copy.
I will buy a copy.
I'm just kidding. I do sell a lot of books.
That's just it. I just wanted to compliment
Thank you so much.
what I thought was extraordinary.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
And I wrote a book on poetry, and because of bad spellings, I wrote poetry. And the publisher thought, that's brilliant. How creative are you? I'm like,
So that's an example of failure.
failure,
that
like,
gets you.
you know, let people understand, oh, this is great art. It's like, this was just normal survival. It's actually movies about so much about survival. I'm sitting back. I saw it at the Venice Film Festival where Andrei premiered. So we all flew to Venice and we had this crazy audience, and that's the first time it hit me that, oh God, point one to point this. It's a...
What was a crazy question you got in Venice? Or did you?
The crazy question?
Well, he said it was a crazy audience. I don't know what you mean by that, but...
No, it was, it's just
Curious,
amazing, because you have an audience that's absolutely passionate about film, and quite a few very interesting characters. So they come in with all their presence. And
you know what was crazy about that? Here, the movie is about New York, and most of us are New Yorkers who are watching this. So our relationship to the city, love, hate, adore, worship, is all accumulated in one experience. But in Venice, we are so much isolated on an island, and we keep referring to New York again and again. So one woman asked me, he's saying, so what's your reference of Venice? And I'm like, I just don't understand the question. She's saying, oh, you talked about New York, and you're coming and showing us this movie. But what is your... I said, if you ask me what's my connection to Venice, but it was interesting that they were... Here, it's a homegrown...
Right.
It's homegrown. Every time we spoke about something, everyone has different... But I say the masks would keep changing. The story people tell you, and you know how everything is manipulated somehow in the city, that constantly is changing. You feel that. You know, it's also great when you go and buy coffee. How are you? And right, first time I experienced it. So I'm about to tell her how am I, but she doesn't care. She already. That was a ritual. We don't care how you actually are, but we want to ask you how are you in the loudest voice early in the morning, because I need coffee to wake up right now. And but that's interesting about the city.
It
you
is.
know. That's
The bagel guy on 69th Street is exactly like that. Yeah. Any other questions for Vikas or Andrei?
Can I jump in for a
Please
second?
do. We'll pass the mic here. Yeah.
I just wanted to introduce members of my team because it was
please.
really a team
And your
effort.
daughter as well, I hope.
Absolutely. So the Stephen Cardone
he's sitting there.
is my co-editor, and he was also filming. The incredible musician Julia Kent. We were so honored to have her music.
Brilliant music.
The entire film had original compositions, so
great
it was
music,
Julia's
yeah.
music, and then it was music that we did that we also recorded in Manipal and in Amritsar with musicians there. So it was really, really special.
And did you say your 3-year-old daughter is in the house somewhere?
My four-year-old daughter is in the house, and my wife is here, who also worked on the film. There they are.
oh God, hi Lara.
So They were also supporting us in Venice, and Lara was on stage in Venice. She was a big part of that. Eli Khan helped us tremendously with the sound design, and he did the sound mix. A couple of people are watching us live now. Antonio Pacheco in India, in Goa. And Shivam was working as a line producer. Per Osterby, our sound recordist, is now watching in Copenhagen. So it's a very international team.
You remind me, I have to open the iPad to see what sort of questions we're getting from there. Oh, there are several. Yes, you had one right here. I'm sorry. And thank you all to the crew for being here.
Andrei and Vikas, thank you very much for coming here and have the chat with us. We really enjoyed the film. We feel it's full of inspiration and positivity. Definitely a job well done. And I have one question for Vikas. As a Michelin star chef, I think you know there are more than 600 Michelin star restaurants in France, but probably less than 10 Indian restaurants on the guide, and none of them are in India. But we all know Indian cuisines are very flavorful, especially the food that we tried in India. So how important do you think it is for an Indian restaurant in India to have a Michelin star?
I think it was kind of strange because...
Did you know what it was when you got it? You knew by then, right?
Yeah, I knew. We were focused on that. I was focused on that. But from a new restaurant, I'm going to tell them, I don't need Michelin star. Please don't critique. It's very hard. It's very hard. Those years working there was very hard because people know one side of the story, but the second part of the story is that they are anonymous. You don't know who's the 30,000 inspectors in the world right now. As we are talking, they are eating somewhere and critiquing someone. Like how restlessness that creates. But I know it was a surprise because in London, they had received Michelin stars. Chef Atul Kochhar and Vineet Bhatia had Michelin stars. But in America, because London, the Indian food had been there for a very long time. And that's actually the national cuisine. And a lot of Americans who would come to you and they said, oh, we had Indian food in London. I said, okay, you didn't die. They said, no. I said, it means it's okay because Americans were still, like 20 years ago, Americans were still skeptical about Indian food. So I think everybody was more interested or knowing about it because it was very new when an Indian chef would be getting this kind of honor.
So we'll come back to the audience in a second. The questions seem to be divided kind of between food-related questions and then life-inspiring, sort of inspirational questions. So here's one. Amy on Twitter says, for Vikas, what advice do you have for young South Asian Americans wishing to follow an unconventional career path?
It's amazing.
It's what?
It's amazing. First of all, you need to know you're following an unconventional path. Because a lot of people get into this denial kind of thing that they think this is totally conventional what they're doing. Because when you know you're unconventional, you will work 10 times harder. It is always going to happen. And I think they need to stay very thick-skinned. I remember Sir Salman Rushdie once said that, you need to have a heart of a poet and skin of an elephant. I think, of course, his analogies will be the greatest. But I did not, that was really that, I tell that to everyone. Accept it. That you're going to have a lot of resistance. But the rewards will also be much higher because you'll be the first one to break the code.
Right. Well said, you and Salman Rushdie. Any other? Yes, sir.
Slightly impudent question.
Hang on just one second. All those people in Copenhagen and India need to hear you too.
So I have a slightly impudent question. You are obviously a man with a good sense of humor. It could be, in fact, that your name is Khanna. I'm curious what your name is. Khanna, of course, means food in
This is
Hindi.
genius.
Seems a little, too lucky.
This is genius. This is genius. I'm telling you, this man deserves an applause. I'll tell you why. My first name means Vikas, which means evolution. And my last name is Khanna, but Americans say Khanna. So it means evolution of food. So this is the guy who gave me the visa. He told me in New Delhi. So your name is food? I'm like, no. He's saying, yeah, Khana is, I know Hindi because I work in Delhi. You're saying it means food.
But Khanna is...
Khanna is the name of a city.
Yeah.
It's a place where we come from. But it's actually, I haven't got used to saying myself as Khana. And you know, I did a book called Khana Sutra. It was Khanna Sutra, but I said Americans are going to say Khana Sutra, so let's do it like that. Thank you. Thank you.
Good question. It's one of the few questions that's gotten applause. Tough act to follow. Yes, sir. Second row here. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Namaste, Vikas ji. This is Priyanka. Before anything else, I want to my utmost respect for you because I have been battling a dreaded disease. And whenever I used to feel low, I have lost the count how many times I have watched your video on YouTube. And every time it gave me courage. It was a disaster for me. And I think you gave me a new life, Vikas ji. Oh. Yeah. I battled cancer. And I'm a home chef, and my food travels all over US and to Canada. And every time I pack my food, first thing I see is your photograph, and first thing I see is your YouTube video. And I say, शायद मेरा रब यहीं है कहीं. That means my God is somewhere here. And today I have brought something for you, and my father is almost in the dying stage. So I said, I'm not going anywhere, I'm not meeting any people. But I said that I have to meet my God today. And the best thing is that my classmate Barnali Rath and her husband Nilamadha Panda, they made the film. Yeah. So, Vikashi, I don't have any questions for you, but tell me, what should I do when I feel low? Because, you know, it's like, I feel like food is something for me, a religion. Food is something, I was telling Shobha, that food for me is a temple. Vikashi, can you help me? What do you do when you feel low or when you see everywhere there is dark? Because I have seen enough dark in my life. This is my 8-year-old daughter. My husband has come. We have come from New Jersey. So.
Thank you so much.
Let me digest it. You're very brave to speak it out. We are cowards. We never used to speak out. Never. And you know, when I used to get beaten up in the class, I have a big scar on my face. They totally stabbed. Good thing was that you realize that you're alive. Waking up is the victory. It's a victory. Bilkul.
She said food helped her too. Yeah.
Waking up is a victory. It's a victory. I just tell you, going through, everybody's having their own challenges, but to wake up every morning and to have this opportunity to live and to have a voice in some way or the other, it's a gift. It's amazing, actually. But sometimes we don't understand that what could have been worse. So many times, so what could have been worse? I just think that just taking my father's ashes to Ganges was the worst loss ever. And I thought I'd never be able to recover. Mm-hmm. On the banks, I wrote another novel when I saw the resilience of these children who survived this every single day in and day out. That is the novel which we made a movie into with Bernali and Madhavji. I just feel that we have to find that this is not ending. There's another connecting dot to this. And constantly being conscious of that. I'm not Deepak Chopra at all, but I don't even understand most of the time what I'm saying to myself. I have such poor communication skills. I can't communicate with my own self. But just the thing that there's still some life in us. It just is so amazing.
By the way, I take issue with only one thing you said, which is that you have poor communication skills. I think your communication skills are almost as good as your culinary skills, so thank you. Our time is up, but as I said at the outset, we have for members a reception up in the Garden Court afterwards. Our guests will stick around for a little bit. And again, as I also said, if you're not a member, it is a great time to become one, because then you'll be a member, you'll have all the benefits, and you'll also enjoy tonight's reception. Vikas Khanna, you are always welcome at the Asian Society. Andrei, congratulations. Thank you so much.